Honestly, I need photos to remember who I am and where I've been. My brain is always busy. If I don't capture things, then I just kind of forget and it disappears. Over time, people have gave me a few Instax photos. Most of them end up curled, dirty, or falling off my fridge. At first, I had just a few Instax mini photos for my friends. Then I watched a YouTube video about the original Polaroid camera, the Instax 70, and bought one off of eBay for $70, which led me to have a ton of instant photos everywhere with no good place to display them. My current choices on how to display these photos were: let the photos get dirty by hanging them off my fridge with a normal fridge magnet, which eventually lead to them falling off the fridge and rocketing away from me when I try to pick them up. I could also store them in a shoebox where I would eventually forget they exist completely. I didn't think either of these solutions were good enough, so I wanted to create a solution where I would be able to see these photos every day in such a way that it felt clean and intentional, which would allow me to clearly remember the good times I've had over the years. After staring at my fridge for way too long, I came up with some goals that would allow me to create an elegant solution. My goals are simple and are as follow. A frame that sticks to my fridge, keeps the photos from curling, looks like a real home product, and can be easily produced affordably and timely with the tools I have at home. So far, I've designed 2 versions of these frames. In the first version, I knew that the frames had to be printed without supports and fast enough to make financial sense selling them on Etsy long term. This turned into a balancing problem. If I made each part too thin, the frames would easily break. If I made each part too thick, it would take forever to print and not be economical. After many test prints, I found the sweet spot for the thickness of each part of the frame to be about 1/16 of an inch. Additionally, I decided to split the frame into 2 pieces. After nailing down the thickness and splitting the frame up, the frames could be easily printed in about 30 minutes to an hour and still survive being dropped a few times from chest level. And an additional benefit of splitting the frame up allowed me to reprint only what changed during testing. The 2-part design also allowed both sides to use a textured build plate for a more polished look that looks more like a home goods product than just a 3D printed object. The next thing I was thinking about is the user experience of this product. How are these photos going to be inserted into the frames in the most practical manner? Most frames require lining up tiny magnets while holding the photo perfectly in place. Like this frame I bought from Urban Outfitters. It has 4 neodymium magnets that are superglued into place here. I have had these come out when I've tried to align my photos. Usually when using one of these frames results in fingerprints on the photo or dropping the picture so that it rockets away under your fridge. I have designed a small gap between the 2 halves of the frame so that you can easily slide in and out the photo you want to see. Additionally, I've added a finger notch for quick removal without leaving fingerprints on the photo. Now I want to move on to my choice in magnets for this project. I used adhesive backed magnetic strips instead of the round magnets because I can cut them in bulk on my Cricut. These magnet sheets require no glue and they can eliminate the need for recessed printed pockets in my design. Hence, no supports needed for the holes that hold the magnets in place. I also standardized the size of the magnet strips to fit the smallest picture frames I am making so I don't need to have to cut multiple different size magnets. Also allows me to scale to different size frames really easy without worrying about adhesion. Moving on to the front of the frame, I want to talk about how I preserve the culture of the Polaroid photo. Instant photos were meant to be written on for context, but my frame covers that section. So I've added a dry erase label to the front of the frame to give that context back. It's easy enough for me to make these labels in bulk because I can cut them out a sheet at a time on my Cricut. These dry erase labels come with an adhesive backing. After doing testing, the labels don't seem to stick that well to a 3D printed PLA or ABS part. I then moved on to testing different types of glues and adhesives that would make the labels stick better to my frames. I found that simple Elmer's screw sticks work the best long term. They limit the mess the best while applying the glue sticks and stick the best out of all the other solutions I have tested. Moving on to how I laid out the dimensions of these frames. I first designed the frames for just Instax mini photos, but in the back of my head, I knew I would be making different size frames in the future for other size formats such as Instax Wide and Polaroid 600. I use Fusion 360 as my CAD software. In Fusion, they call it Parametric Design, but essentially you are creating variables that is some type of dimension in inches, millimeters, or other units of measurement. I use parametric variables to define most attributes like width, height, material thickness, and position of the window for the photo. So I can easily update the frame for new form factors after a few iterations and a few minutes spent QAing the frames. For me, the engineering part is the easy part. All the technical stuff we have talked about is second nature to me. I could do it blindfolded. The real hard part for me is this, what I'm doing right now. the marketing. I have to completely switch my brain, and it takes a lot of time and effort for me to get it done. So to market these frames I just built, I had to spend a lot of time thinking and trying to figure out what makes good product photos. How do I shoot a video and edit it that demonstrates the product well and makes people want to buy it? How can I make graphics that explain the product and the color options that exist for purchase? I also cannot spend much on paid advertising for this product because I don't have much money to put it into the product in the first place. And for some of these frames, like the Instax mini frames, there's already a lot of competition, limiting how much I can actually charge for these products. So for the marketing of these frames, I use Reddit for organic advertising. I want to be respectful and not annoying with my content, so I make sure to look at the posts that already exist in the subreddit. I also read the rules before I post, see if my content fits with their content that already exists in that subreddit. Posting on Reddit can also give me feedback and validation for the idea I'm working on is actually a good idea before I put any additional energy into it. Once I had my listings up on Etsy and did some organic advertising on Reddit, I was able to have a small but yet successful launch of these frames, which now, regrettably, I have to fulfill. So, after a quick panic and buying an additional 3D printer off of Facebook Marketplace, I began to start fulfilling these orders I have committed to. Then I started to realize the way I've designed the front and back pieces of these frames to come together was taking a lot of time and hurting my fingers because I needed to superglue each frame together, leading me to spending a lot of time making sure that the frames are perfectly aligned before the glue dries, worrying about if I applied enough glue or too much glue where the glue would squeeze out, get on my fingers or objects nearby and stick to the frames and ruin the frames where I have to make a completely new one. So I know I need another version to make assembly faster, and I could justify it over time because of the sales I am currently getting. In the second version of these frames, I focus on not using superglue entirely. After looking at one of my sketches in Fusion 360 for a very long time and repeatedly drawing boxes to figure out a new joining method between the front and the back of these frames, I watched a slant 3D video on mechanical joints and developed a simple rectangle and circle locking mechanism to bring the front and back parts of these frames together. It worked great. It was very scalable to all the frames I already created and saved me so much time in assembly with the Christmas orders around the corner. My final thoughts would be for this project, each failed print and redesign pushed the project closer to what I originally envisioned, a frame that protects meaningful memories while looking intentional in the home. I may have spent way too much time on this product. In the long run, it's not going to make me rich. But I see it as a stepping stone to the next great product I create, picking up small lessons that I can build off of and eventually have a bigger payoff. Let me know your feedback of what you think of this project. Should I keep working on it? Did you find this video helpful? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe to this channel. I make all kinds of things. I'm always building things. If you want to see me build more things, hit that button. Boosts my ego, keeps me doing this. Thank you very much for watching this whole video. I can't believe you watched it. Oh, you need a gold medal. If you like these frames you saw here, they are for sale on my Etsy. Check them out in the description below. Thank you very much. I'm so grateful for you for watching this. All right, have a nice day.